a seismic win there for Fraserburgh. Brechin City's first defeat of the Breedon Highland League season. Let's talk about the goal first of all. What led to the goal? Lenny Wilson definitely outside his box, was he?
Yes, for me. Look at his feet. He's standing with his feet outside on the line and his hands are here. So if his hands are in front of where his feet are, he's got to be out of the box and handball. Free kick for me.
Won't be the last goalkeeper to do it, I suppose.
I mean, I think he is, when you actually freeze it as the ball goes into his hands, it is very tight, but his feet are just out in front of the line, and I mean, unless you're leaned back sort of doing the limbo, your hands really can't be behind when you're standing upright like that. And I think when it's not often we see really mistakes for Lenny, but I think when he looks at it as well, in terms of that, it was pretty needless because the ball, it wasn't under that much pressure and the ball was coming through into the box either, so just a slight misjudgment. And I mean, the goal, not sure over his time at Ryan Cowie scored too many on his right foot, but that was an excellent strike after it. Certainly better than his first attempt anyway into that quite sizable Brechin wall. But good finish and a great win for Fraserburgh clearly, and I think for everyone else sort of looking to try and be competitive at the top end, it was the result they were looking for to just open things up a wee bit more after Brechin having made that very good start to the season.
What did you make of the game after Fraserburgh took the lead? I think Joe Barber made a couple of decent saves, but I don't know if I was expecting Brechin to maybe have more chances with the amount of sort of possession they seem to have.
Possibly. I mean, they're on the ball a lot, but I mean, I made reference to it in my commentary. The amount of times a ball comes into the box and there's a Fraserburgh a head or a leg being stuck out to clear the danger, it's unbelievable. Joe Barber, he makes a couple of saves in the game, but they're fairly routine. It's actually Lenny Wilson has the more action to deal with over the course of the highlights, but a terrific defensive rearguard without being one-way traffic for me.
I would agree with a lot of what you said. I think Brechin on another day, some of those chances they had, they would maybe take, like the one I think that Joe Barber makes with Fraser McLeod at the near post with his feet is a really good save. But as you say, Broch had their share of chances as well. I think certainly in the highlights, I thought Jamie Beagrie was immense for Fraserburgh in defence. Just the things he mopped up and the sort of just blocks and headers and the things he sort of disrupted really in the Brechin attack. And as Mark Cowie touched on, sort of anything that Joe Barber had to deal with, he dealt with comfortably. And I think really like the way that game panned out, and similar even when the sides met in the semi-final of the GPH Builders Merchants Highland League Cup, when you go to Glebe Park, that probably is the blueprint you have to follow, because Brechin are so good at dominating possession and moving the ball that Fraserburgh are usually a team that like to get up in teams' faces and really press. But in the likes of that game on Saturday and in the cup semi-final, they had to be a bit more selective of when they really went after Brechin, so that they maybe wouldn't get picked apart in this way that Brechin did to them in the game there last season and have done to other teams as well.
Okay then, another reminder then how competitive this season's Breedon Highland League is shaping up to be. 3 wins in a row now then for Inverurie Locos, and they appear to have turned the corner under Dean Donaldson. I think in this one, my reflections would be that for the first and third goal, Deveronvale didn't help themselves.
That's putting it lightly.
The second goal, what a strike from Nathan Mears.
Well, as you say, first of all, I mean, the first goal, it's a good bit of play for Inverurie actually, but it's, from a Deveronvale point of view,
it trundles into the area.
It's very sort of tame and laboured, and I know Craig Stewart and Richard Davidson won't be happy with that, and certainly the players that they've got there are capable of a lot better. And then the third goal, Sean McIntosh, definitely won't want to see that again. And even once they got like Harry Noble and that, they got bodies around it, you thought they might still have managed to clear the danger, but no, they couldn't. And then, you know, it's game over, I think, as well. Like, I'll come back to Nathan Mears' goal, but at 2-0 when Logan Johnson gets sent off, the game was there for for Deveronvale to go and sort of take it by the scruff of the neck and try and sort of dominate. And if they could have done that and got the next goal, you don't know what could happen. But it never really, from what I've seen and from what I've heard, never really felt like Deveronvale were in that position where they could put Locos under a sustained spell of pressure. And I mean, Nathan Mears' goal is the undoubted moment of quality in that match. That's a tremendous finish from a player who is capable on his day, and Saturday was clearly his day. But for Locos overall, it's amazing the difference a couple of wins can make, and also they've got a striker now. They've found somebody at the top end of the pitch who's scoring goals. I think Miles Gaffney's got 4, and in those 3 games they've won, he's scored 4 goals. And if you're scoring goals, that's the key to it, really. And I mean, when he came on loan for Cove for a start, as the whole team was, he maybe struggled a wee bit. I mean, he was working quite hard, but maybe not getting the chances. But now he's getting the chances and he's putting them away, and that'll make a big difference to Inverurie.
As you said, Deveronvale, Logan Johnson gets sent off. We've only seen the highlights, of course, but it doesn't really look like the flow of the game changes very much when Locos go down to 10 men. And Craig Stewart, one week he's saying we've proved the doubters wrong, and then the next week it's back to questioning players' desire and stuff. How do they get rid of that inconsistency in Deveronvale?
I don't know, but that is the difference between the two sides. If you look at them, Locos, they've got a new manager bounce, they've got a bit of rhythm, a bit of momentum. Deveronvale don't have that. They're so inconsistent in terms of they come from behind and get a great result against Lossiemouth, and then they're really toiling in a game against another team round about them in the league. They just can't seem to build back-to-back wins at all.
I mean, it would help them as well, I think, generally, if they could be a wee bit more solid at the back. I mean, Innes Mackay has been missing, which is a loss to them clearly in the centre of defence, but they haven't kept a clean sheet since the opening day of the season, the 29th of July. So with that run, if you're always having to score 2-3 goals minimum to get something out of the game potentially, then it's going to be a tall order for you.
Okay, then let's move on to Saturday's other results in the Breedon Highland League. Then I think we'll start with Huntly 1, Bankside 3, which saw Bankside, I think, move into second position. Table's looking good.
They were in second after winning on Wednesday.
So the gap now to Brechin at the top, paired with Brechin's defeat, of course, that we've discussed, 2 points. I know there's different amount of games played there, but it's looking decent for Bankside. Goals from Lucky McLeod, two from him, and Deshaun Golden. I think from a Huntly perspective, what would be really frustrating is how quickly all 3 of those goals sort of came. It was kind of like a 15 or so minute spell that they all went in. And at that point, it's kind of game over, barring a miracle.
It is an issue for Huntly, and it's a recurring theme we've talked about in the last few weeks of the head-to-head matches for this top 6-7 teams between each other is what's going to determine where they're all going to finish in order in the table. And Huntly have had a very good result against Brechin. They've beaten Fraserburgh at home in a very good performance and result as well. But then they have the disappointment of slipping up against Bankside, and that's going to be the difference come the end of the season for them, I think.
I think you can talk about the defensive side of things again. I mean, Alan Hale after the game was quite critical of the goals, the manner of the goals that they conceded on Saturday, and I think it's 8 or 9 games now again that Huntly have had without a clean sheet. And when you're playing sides like Bankside, and they played Brora last week, and they've played for Martin recently as well, these sort of teams, if you can keep clean sheets, they really are like gold dust, because obviously if you keep a clean sheet, you're guaranteed something from the game, and you've kind of good chance of winning it. But even like at 3-1 down, half time, it's that same old story of the 2-goal thing if you get the next goal. But I mean, I think what we've seen and what they deserve credit for, Bankside now in a number of these type of games for Martin, when they played for Martin last week as well, when they get in front, they're very good at not letting a lead slip and just seeing it out, whether it's one goal or a couple of goals cushion that they've got. They seem to just, even the Fraserburgh game that we saw on the Friday night, like at 2-0 up, again, game's not won, but they just they controlled the game, saw the game out really well, which I credit to them. And I think after maybe they've dropped some points that they would be unhappy with this season, but I think now they are really motoring. And if you look through their team, like Lachie McLeod's a player that will get you. He'll probably get more because I think he's on 13 already, but he'll get you 20 goals a season. And his brother Hamish has started really well. Deshaun Golding's come in and sort of really hit the ground running on loan for Cove. And I mean, he's only there till January, and they'd like to keep him, but he's made a big impact. And then you look, and there's also players like Mark Alexander, Mikey Phillips, and Mark Gilmore, Kane Winton. You know, it's good. As much as I've talked up their defence, middle to front, they're a really good side, and I mean that's reflected in results and where they are on the table.
Huntley's goal in that game, scored by Andy Hunter, I think that also put him on 13 goals
for the season.
For the season, unlucky for some in the case of that game. Strathspey Thistle 1, Turriff United 8 is where we'll head next. Be really disappointing, this one, for Strathspey. Not the defeat, I suppose, but the manner of the defeat. It seemed like the goals just kind of flooded in, both in the first half and the second half.
Well, they've started really badly. I think they're 2-0 down after 7 minutes or something like that, which against any team you can't really afford to do. And I've seen some of the goals, and some of them for Turriff. I mean, I think Murray Cormack's second especially is a tremendous goal, and he was excellent on the day. He scored a hat-trick, I believe. That's probably his first hat-trick in Highland League football, and he, like most of the Turriff players, performed really well. But for a Strathspey point of view, some of the goals they lost were, just poor and sort of needless. And once they had lost a few, you could see sort of players, maybe the heads were gone a wee bit, or they were making poor decisions. And that's, I think, I know they played Huntly in midweek and they were in front and then ended up losing 4-1, but I think that performance on Saturday, potentially a wee bit of a hangover from last weekend and being 3-0 up on Clark and not winning, and really after a couple of decent results, that's quite concerning. But in fairness to Turriff, they hadn't been on a great run. I think it was only 1 win in 7, and then to play as they did and be ruthless like that is a sign of when, if you give Turriff chances and when they're at their best or close to their best, what a handful of a team they can be.
Lossmouth 5, Clacknacuddin 3. Lost were 4-0 up by 20 minutes in this one via Liam, Archibald, Ryan Stewart. He scored twice in 90 seconds. And Ross Morrison. Callum Ferguson pulls a goal back for Clark before the break. Connor Gethins then scored. Dylan McKenzie made it 4-3. So Clark coming back, perhaps it looked like, but that comeback was snuffed out by losses. Ryan Facker in the final minute. Clark are obviously they're second bottom at the moment, and I thought Connor Gethins' post-match quotes about how things perhaps haven't turned around the way we'd like since he came in were quite strong, and sort of like potential the team might be changed, their players might find themselves out of the picture if they keep going the way they are.
Wait, that's the only tool he's got at the minute, Connor, because if you look at, we just touched on Inverurie Locos there, and the bounce they're getting under Dean Donaldson, it's not quite happening for the Lily-Whites yet. If anything, they're still just stuck with giving away silly goals. I mean, 3-4-0 down, you're not coming back. As good as an effort it is in the end, almost like the pressure's off.
It's easy to play when you're 4-0 down, really.
Because you're not worrying about conceding, you've got nothing to lose.
But, I mean, the thing I think Connor's potentially finding a wee bit is probably the same issues that Jordan McDonald had latterly in his time. As you look at Clark's, even with the players have got missing, you look at their team and their squad and you think, there's a lot of good players in that and a lot of talent there, but for whatever reason they seem to have these periods where they just sort of goal missings, but just sort of seem to lose it completely, and it can be bad. I mean, we saw last week, as I mentioned, Strasbourg were 3-0 up at half time in that game, and then 20 odd minutes in the clock at Grant Park on Saturday, and they're 4-0 down, and can you just more or less impossible job then? So that clearly needs to change for them. I mean, for Losse, their assistant manager, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, Ian Campbell, nicknames them the roller coasters, and I think Saturday's 90 minutes probably shows you why, because if you're 4-0 up, you kind of think, well, should go on and be a relatively comfortable afternoon, and then obviously they're needing a late goal to kill it off, but that's so I'm sure the heart rate in the home dugout might have been racing a wee bit in the second half. But I mean, overall, if you look at it, 4 wins and 5 for Losse, 3 home wins in the bounce. Traditionally, they're sort of strong at Grant Park, and they seem to be clicking into gear again, and it's good run for them overall, so credit to them.
But I mean, who'd be a Losse fan? I mean, you're touching on 4 wins out of 5, but they had 3 clean sheets in a row, then they score first at Deveronvale a week ago, and then lose 3, and then they concede another 3 on Saturday and still manage to win a game. It's bonkers stuff.
At least you get thrills. Wick Academy 2, Nairn County 3, 9 in a row now for Nairn County. I think they pushed up to 3rd on the table. They did move up to 3rd. Stephen Mackay summed up the Nairn manager, what we were saying I think last week about Nairn to an extent. He said, although he felt they'd played better in this game, he said we've gotten a really good habit of finding ways to win games, and that certainly seems to be a trait of Nairn's at the moment.
Aye, definitely. I think the way they found, I mean, as much as I think first half, by all accounts, they were the team in the ascendancy aside for the first 5 minutes. I think Wick did also, over the course of the game, have chances in second half, playing down the hill where maybe a bit more like they would want to be, but finding a way to win in this instance, when you can get a cross for the right back that sort of loops over everyone and goes in at the back post, is certainly a useful way to win. I mean, Gary Manson afterwards was kind of bemoaning Wick's luck a little bit, because of ways to get beaten, that's probably one that you don't expect. And I think Jamie Carnahan's tried to claim he meant it, but Stephen Mackay and I think most of his colleagues have been quick to sort of tell him that he didn't mean it. But so that, like, I think it's a bit of a cliche, but when you're on the run, Nairn are on as well, which comes for hard work and organisation and playing well ultimately to get on a run like they're on. You then find that little things like that go for you, and you end up picking up more wins. I mean, Wick, if they look through their performance, I thought the first goal they conceded was soft in terms of a cross that should have been dealt with. The penalty was, and Gary said that himself afterwards, it was a penalty. It was accidental, but it was sort of clumsy for Owen Rendell. And then they've also had a man sent off, which was a stick-on red card as well for denying a clear goal-scoring opportunity, but probably a mistake for Ryan Campbell in the build-up. So they haven't helped themselves with those few things during the game, and then at the end, obviously, they've been undone by a bit of bad luck. So you sort of, you're sort of left going, well, what more can you do? But
just to clarify the goal scorers in that one, Gary Poulin had Wick in front early, George Robiston, and then, as Callum mentioned, Aaron Nicholson's penalty had Nairn in front, and then Mark McGregor pulled it back to 2-2 before Jamie Carnahan's wonder goal late on. Okay, on to the last game from the league action on Saturday to discuss. Forest Mechanics 0, Rothes 1. Aidan Wilson's goal in 79 minutes. The difference, this one sounded like perhaps both teams had chances. Forest were maybe the better team in the first half, hit the post through Gregory MacDonald. I think Rothes hit the post through Greg Morrison before they scored in the second half. And I imagine it's one that will leave Steve MacDonald frustrated, because probably unfortunate just to be the team that comes out on the wrong side of it.
You speaking about Wick not being able to catch a break. I mean, Forest, it's sort of like the same old story. I mean, you look at their last 7 games in all competitions, they've had 2 draws and 5 defeats, and all of those defeats have been by a single goal. And again, I think Wednesday night against Inverurie Locos was much the same, and that against Rothes seemed to be similar, where in terms of general play overall, not a great deal to separate the teams, but Rothes find a way to score and Forest don't. And I mean, that's that cliche about both boxes defines what happens, and Forest are finding that at the minute. But I think you sort of keep thinking, well, if they keep
plugging away,
if they keep plugging away, things bound to change. But obviously, the longer it goes on, the more concern it'll get from them. But I mean, for Rothes, 2 wins in the bounce now, another good victory, clean sheet, which will please them. And I mean, over Ross Jack's tenure, I'd love to count up how many times they've won 1-0 or won by a single goal, because when they're at their best, their masters are just getting a goal and then closing things up and just winning the game by that single goal.
Forest in this game, you're the expert in this, but Forest in this game, very much the old operation was successful but the patient died.
I don't know if the operation was successful because they lost, but
but the flat ass was the
yeah
the way they performed. Alright, well, let's have a look at the Breedon Highland League standings as they are now, following there are, of course, 3 Scottish Cup ties results from the weekend to discuss. We had 3 Breedon Highland League teams contesting 3rd round action. I don't know where we should start. Maybe with Broxburn Athletic against Buckie Thistle, 2-2 draw, then a penalties win for Buckie. This game had everything, did it not?
That certainly did. I mean, just first of all,
Stuart Knight's redemption tale. Come on, this is what it is.
Well, you're on about Stuart Knight. I bet you Scott Adams had been a mixture of relieved and delighted when the winning penalty went in, because he gets sent off in the first half, and you're thinking, well, it's a tall order, and they'd held out, and then goal goes in the last 10 minutes. But Buckie, it's that old never say die spirit attitude that they've got. I mean, equalised basically with the last kick of the ball to force extra time. Then you're on about Stuart Knight. Sure, Stuart would say himself the second goal for Broxburn wasn't his finest hour, and then again, last kick of the ball job, corner, his header, Josh Peters equalises, and then to sort of fully just the Stuart Knight redemption arc, if you will, saving the critical penalty which allowed Josh Peters to score and send them through. And that's a superb result, all things considered. I mean, Broxburn are top of the East of Scotland League. They've put out 2 Highland League sides previously, and then Buckie playing with 10 men for so long, and also missing some key players as well, like McCaskill, Joe McCabe, etc. Like, you'd guys like Lewis McKinnon and Hamish Munro, who are more now on the coaching staff than playing, and who haven't played much football this season. They both were on and played their part, so I think all those things, just an excellent result. And I mean, given the draw and who they're playing next, it obviously looks even better for them.
Well, that's why you win in the 3rd round, isn't it? To get a draw like they've got.
The highlight of the highlights is the manager, because Graham Stewart
celebration
both times, justifiably so.
I disagree.
Phenomenal.
Well, to an extent, the only thing that could have made that highlights reel better is if Lewis McKinnon's attempted 70-yard effort had dropped in, because to be fair, it was on when you were like, when you see it in the highlights initially, you're like, what is he doing here? And then when as the ball,
I think his bandage slipped down over his eyes. And
it was worth a goal.
No, it was worth a goal.
But I mean, obviously, if you've been living under a rock and don't know who they've drawn, it's Celtic at Parkhead in January in the 4th round. And I mean, every aspect that you look at it from, it's just a great thing for Buckie, really. I mean, the financial standpoint, obviously the picks haven't been done yet, but it will be on TV. You're due half the gate at Parkhead, so I mean 60,000 capacity, but even if there's
half full,
30,000 there, it's still serious money. So for that side of things, probably in terms of the club, whether it's strengthening the squad further, improving facilities, or just having money there for sort of future projects, it'll be a great thing. For the players, I know a few of them that are Celtic supporters and a few maybe Rangers supporters, so but either way, to get the chance to test yourself against the best team in the country, the cup holders, it's a great opportunity. And the thing is as well, it's a bit of a cliche to say you want to enjoy these games, but that really is a game where Bucky's players and supporters alike can go and enjoy the whole day, because there's absolutely no pressure, will be no pressure on them whatsoever to go and win that game. Nobody, if they could go down there and win, it'd be the biggest shock
ever
in the history of the competition. So go and enjoy it and do yourselves proud and just see what happens, and just savour it really, because we've seen in the past Bucky, when they were the sort of Greg Carroll leader, when they were in the third, fourth round quite regularly, they never really got that plum tie against a big hitter, and we've seen other Highland League teams the same. So when you do get them, just savour it and make the most of it.
Mouth-watering stuff.
Oh, fabulous.
Brendan against Spider on the touchline. Potentially, don't know what team's going to be, but Lewis McKinnon against Kyogo. Oh. Another Highland League team got through as well to the fourth round. It should be said, perhaps weren't rewarded with as glamorous a tie, but we'll say it was still a glamorous tie. But Brora, they beat Pollock 1-0 at Dudgeon Park. Couple of scares for Brora in the first half, going off the highlights. I think I know Pollock hit the post, but Jordan McRae wasn't going to miss that chance he got, was he? And I mean, it's sort of same as with Bucky with Josh Peters. Like, if you've got a player up front that can take chances and is lethal in those situations, that makes the difference.
Oh, massively. I mean, I think the goal Brora scored was outstanding. Bit of quality in that tie. Like, it was an excellent move. Ball into Jordan's feet, and then lay off. Tony Dingwall picks out Mark Shewan on the right side. I mean, Mark Shewan is a player, maybe at times maybe hasn't had the credit he deserves, but this season I think he's been. Jordan McRae scored a lot of goals, but so far this season you could probably make a case for Mark's being their best player, because he's been outstanding. Puts it on not on a plate, but still a good finish, but finds Jordan McRae in the form he's in at the moment. He's not missing. And I mean, Ken Pollock maybe had a few openings and things like that, but so did Brora. I mean, it took a sensational block to stop Mark Shewan, and then there's a goal he scored for a corner, which I've looked at a couple of times, touch and go as to whether that's disallowed. I mean, I'd be interested if the head VAR can maybe take another look at it. But I mean, at the end of the day, Ali McDonald said afterwards that Brora could have played better. But cup football, it's about getting through, and that's the bottom line. No point in play. If they'd played well and lost 1-0, they'd have been gutted. So they're through. In terms of the tie,
Highland League rivals.
It's intriguing because of that. It's the old foes, and I mean, Cove have still got a few guys there who'd obviously had their battles with Brora over the years, and I think it's a good tie. It's obviously, in terms of a potential earner and a big day out, it's not really the tie they would have been looking for, but Coville starts favourites, and I mean, rightly so. They're 2 divisions higher on a full-time side, but I wouldn't say Brora were without a chance in that tie. And I think as well, Brora and Bucky, from a Highland League perspective, it's great to see them through, because it's been a few years since we've had anyone in the fourth round at all, and now you've got 2 in there again, and with both ties, the spotlight's on the league again a wee bit more, sort of in the wider sort of national game, and it's a chance. Again, the clubs have shown the quality in the division, but it's a chance for them in the fourth round against higher level opposition to show their quality again.
We weren't able to complete the set in the Scottish Cup on Saturday. One of our sides, unfortunately, they went out. Falkirk 3 for Martin United 0. We knew this tie was going to be a difficult one for Martin, with Falkirk flying high in League One, and it very much seemed like Falkirk, going by the highlights certainly, went out to make a fast start. For Martin, but under the cosh, it looked like pretty quickly. Maybe not helping themselves a little bits of defending, but the opening goal from Ethan Ross for Falkirk, stunner again, great volley.
It was. I think what you said there, having been there covering it, highlights were slightly deceptive, because there's long periods of that first 34 minutes before the opening goal where Falkirk were knocking the ball about without much real purpose. They put plenty of balls into the box, which I thought for Martin dealt with well enough. I mean, the first goal, great finish. There's a bit of debate about whether it should have been a corner, because it appeared like the ball, it's a sort of funny situation, but it appeared like the ball might have been run out for a goal kick by a Falkirk player before, I think it was Stuart Smith, came across and put it out, or got a touch on it anyway. But I mean, great finish for the corner. And then after that, there's, it's 3 goals in 5 minutes, and that really kills the tie. And I mean, for Martin, it was just, they were rocking a wee bit at that point, and Falkirk took advantage in good fashion, as you'd expect, aside from their sort of level to do. But I think over the 90 minutes for Martin, deserved credit, because at that point, 3-0 after 39 minutes, there is that concern it could get ugly, if you like, but it didn't, and they battled away well. The only thing I would say is, in the final third, I think they would have liked to have caused a few more problems. Like, they got into 1 or 2 good positions, but sort of pass or cross let them down. Free kicks and corners they had, probably didn't make the most of them. And there was the trademark long throw from Matthew McLean. At 0-0, there was a couple of them caused a wee scrambles, but there was never, the Falkirk goalkeeper, unfortunately, was never seriously tested. But overall, for Martin, they did well to get there. They performed well in the main on the day, and see you again next season in the Scottish Cup.